Assad. We have peacefully. This is a military regime dressed in a civil facade. We have the Honorable Bobby Wine with us.
As a matter of fact, I would now
Why is my husband held in a military barracks? If I could see him, then I would know what I am actually dealing with.
Our Bobby should be released.
I would rather represent the resilience of Ugandans. We stand for equality and dignity for everybody. We are non-violent, and we continue to preach non-violence.
I am not a criminal. I am a presidential candidate.
Nothing will stop him.
We must get our freedom or we shall die trying. We are fighting for freedom. We are fighting for freedom.
to stay backwards. If the politicians were at the airport
and they rally behind the person who has been already brutalized or beaten, I mean, that's not the way to go. Just like Sam said, the despot comes in with his machinery, abducts people, kills people, and he goes away. Nothing happens. But if we really had something in return for them, they wouldn't be doing all this. Somehow, somewhere, sooner or later, we shall have change. But that change, at what cost will that change be? That's the question. Politicians have let us down. If we must have change, politicians must be out of equation. And the politicians I'm talking about, I don't mean Bobby Wine, I don't mean Dr. Kizza Besigye, but these opportunistic politicians who only come for the camera to see them so that they gain votes during the election period. Those are the people who have betrayed the struggle, and those are the people actually who sometimes, and I'm sure about this, who sometimes they work for the dictator. You plan this, they give the information to the dictator. Before you even take a step on your next move, the dictator is on your back. And you ask yourself, how did this happen? How did they get to know? That's how Dr. Kizza Besigye was betrayed several times. That's how Bobby Wine is being betrayed several times. For God and my country, somehow, somewhere, we must fight for our own. Let the politicians be out of the equation. Thank you, Juliana.
Thank you so much. Bob, Liam Monday. Liam Monday, would you like to come in, please?
Yes, my sister, a good evening to everyone and a good evening to everybody. Thank you, Brother Mugumya, for your submissions and to all the speakers who have just spoken. Yes, Juliana, it's a great moment that we are here reflecting on the arrest of our president and the implications of politicians. The speaker who has just left the podium pointed out the hypocrisy of these conventional politicians, because we've been trying to mobilize people via social media so that they can turn up in large numbers to welcome the president. But the politicians being on the front line, being led by Mr. Matthias Mpuga, he mobilized them to stay backwards. If the politicians were at the airport, what the state did wouldn't have happened, But when these members of parliament pulls back, they create a sense of legitimacy for the regime internationally. You understand? But if the members of parliament, joined the mobilization the foot soldiers have done throughout the preparation of the return of the president, we would have seen something so effective. There is no way an MP could go to Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu's house even prior to his arrival there. How did they know that he's going to be whisked away? I'll give you an example, my sister Juliana. When President Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu came to OR Tambo International Airport, the police did the same due to the influence of the ambassador or Museveni's representative in South Africa. A person who's supposed to represent the people of Uganda in South Africa was decampaigning our presence at OR Tambo International Airport. So what the police did, as soon as Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu stepped on the tarmac, they took him away. But what we did, we resisted. We said, we came here to welcome our president. How comes he did not come out through the main door, as it is always being done? We demanded him on a loud voice, so they brought him back, and we jubilated right there. On our way to the venue, we encountered 4 roadblocks mounted on the police. Each and every car that had a flag of Uganda was stopped. And then we surmounted that hurdle as well. As soon as we reached on the venue, the police came back again. There was an influence. There was an influence from the outside. What I'm trying to say that conventional politicians are dealing with Museveni. They're in conspiracy, especially Matthias Mpuga. He is conspiring with dictator Museveni to sabotage each and every move that Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu or NUP supporters try to put in place, because we have a philosophy of rub-a-dub style. But these members of parliament, they are not supporting the common Ugandans, how they come up with their own thing. They want to call what they call decorum.
Okay.
So my 1
as
minute.
As you conclude, please.
Good. My brother Mugumya talked about our reluctance to become a little bit more violent, should I say. But at the beginning of the struggle, there was a campaigning of guys who are determined to confront Museveni militarily. Juliana, I'm telling you, a lot of guys were led into a trap. Hundreds and hundreds of young men who were determined around Kenya, Tanzania, they were led into a trap by conventional politicians, by people who come in diaspora pretending that they are being persecuted. And when they come here, they start mobilizing people who are in diaspora. And the end of the day, they drop them in a trap. So what we are doing here, we are exposing those mouths within our organization. At the end of the day, we shall prevail. Rihanna, it is a marathon, not a sprint. May the Lord lead us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Your point, I think, is really important when you talk about if you feel, or because I'm not big on conspiracy theories, but if there is evidence that somebody has been compromised, then I think somebody in a position of Bobby Wine should make it clear by ostracizing or by changing or reshuffling them. Keeping them in place it sort of gives mixed messages, because we're not sure, and then it becomes conspiracy theories, and you're not sure what's fact and what's propaganda. So if people in position do know that somebody's been compromised, especially if it's the leader of the opposition, then the photo ops next to him don't help the situation or don't help with clarity, especially amongst voters. So it's important as well. Yes, they can be ostracized by ordinary Ugandans, but also the people at the top. If you know that Mpuga or X or Y or Z is compromised, why are you continuing to work with them? That also sends mixed messages, but that's just me. Sam, do feel free to come in at any moment. I'm going to bring in Nin. Let's have a lady. Nin, please. And then Jojo Pojo. Nin, please come in.
Hi, Juliana.
Hi.
I think for me, Sam has really summarized everything about this topic. I'm so grateful to him. But I want to speak about what he talked about us building strong institutions, strong parties. I think it's very important in the opposition. We haven't got this like figure, or if you're NUP, you're really thinking about NUP. I remember when there were recently problems in FDC, some NUP members were kind of happy, like we knew it was that, they weren't supportive, and that's not how it's supposed to be. Because unless we have strong institutions, unless we have strong parties, like Sam was saying, if one is under arrest or compromised, then you have somebody else. We need to work on this. We are in this together. We need more strong institutions, especially these strong political parties. Unless we have that, then it's like NUP is now the target for the NRM. But imagine if we had a strong PP and a strong FDC and a strong NUP. I can tell you there wouldn't be an NRM. And I was reading through the comment section, and of course you've talked about this to me, Mr. George. To me, these are the same culprits, really. We had them during the tribal exhibition. They were telling us to shush, don't talk about tribalism, how we, Banyankole, also face it. I mean, like, you were stealing from the people. Of course, you're going to be stealing from your own. Are you surprised that some Banyankole are grassing if you're touching the coffers? No. I think these people really, they're selfish, like Sam said. They're comfortable in their little stuff they've made. And you hear it among us, the elite. You hear them say, like, oh, Colasento Silike, like, do your stuff. And to them, even today, as the arrests were going on in Entebbe, people being brutalized on the streets, you'd see some people having meetings with Uganda Airlines, like nothing happened. And Ugandans need to look at these people who are kind of not supporting the regime, but who are comfortable in the state of what the country is in. Because for them, they are benefiting. They may not be overall benefiting because, let's face it, if their maybe relatives are ill, they'll suffer the same wrath like everybody else who goes in Ugandan hospitals. Probably will die on the roads, the same poor roads like anybody else. But then I think we need to watch out these people who want to tell us that, come on, come down. This guy is 80. He's not alone. Probably also benefiting from him being in there, because you think probably when he's gone, you won't benefit. So don't tell us to really shut down or keep down because you are comfortable in your state. No, you shouldn't. There was someone else also saying that, I think he was talking about when Juliana talked about, what was his name? The chief of Mogadishu, the late guy. And he's saying, oh, do not speak about him, let him rest in peace. The things that we're talking about, these guys have said. So is General Tumwine. These guys on record for belittling Ugandans at their time of need. So you think this is not the 60s or the 70s where there was no records, where we were told, for example, what things Idi Amin did, and there were no records. These guys are doing things, we can see them, and we'll bring them forward every now and then. I don't know why they feel uncomfortable when these things come to light. And finally, for Ugandans, really, I think this is an opportunity to rise up. I don't see any way out. Museveni is comfortable. His people are comfortable. They would need. There's no way they could give you like a space to breathe. What happened to Bobby Wine was expected, and I'm really surprised it was even not as brutal as expected, because that's what Museveni does. Why would you think you really think he cares about Bobby Wine? You really think he cares about the opposition? He only wants to stay in power. If you're comfortable with that, then sit down. But if you're not, then let people rise up. I submit.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nin. Sam, would you like to? this point.
Yes, there is one important point that Madam Nin has raised. The question of this competition and Cold War among the opposition ranks, within the opposition ranks. It is sad that when one opposition party seems to be having difficulties, then other opposition parties see it as a cause for celebration and self-congratulation. When DP is having problems, then the others feel like, yes, they are quick to pass judgment and also to have that sense of satisfaction that their competitors are not doing well. FDC is still, in the woods with their internal challenges, and you can see, the giggles and the satisfaction that many from NUP, from other parties, feel that yes, at last they are crumbling so that we will remain standing. Today I was following the postings of many of my FDC comrades, and they were filled with this sense of satisfaction like, yeah, we told you, we knew nothing would happen. You were always saying this, now what have you done? Touting NUP over what has happened today. But I think that having, the challenges and crumbling. What does FDC benefit if NUP organizes a function that does not turn out as expected? I think that whether NUP is there or not, Museveni will still strive to retain power. Whether FDC is there or not, the same will happen. So we have a common enemy. And it is important that we really galvanize all our efforts and, target the real enemy of the oppressed. We may not come in to form one, to merge all the parties and have one party because of some reasons, maybe. But we must know that at the end of the day, whether one is in NUP or FDC or DP or UPC, genuinely, we are all sailing in the same boat, and that we have a common enemy. We are all shackled. So rather than being like the proverbial grasshoppers, which when thrown in a bottle, rather than, collaborating to see how to liberate themselves, they start biting each other in the bottle and forgetting the person that put them in the bottle. We should know that, yes, a misfortune on any of the opposition parties is a misfortune on all of us. A success registered by one opposition party is a collective success for us. For example, when we go for by-elections, any seat that the opposition takes is a plus on the side of the opposition. And I think that we should carry that same mentality. We are not competing, NUP is not competing against FDC. FDC is not struggling against NUP because it's not NUP that is oppressing us, and neither is FDC oppressing NUP. The oppressor is Museveni, and we must know that and work towards our collective liberation. I think that the leaders should really preach this message so that we can get our foot soldiers to read from the same page. The leaders speak one thing, but when you hear the foot soldiers speak, then there is, a disconnect. The foot soldiers are more entangled in their own bickerings amongst themselves, while the leaders seem to be preaching the right message. So more work needs to be done so that we can unite for our common liberation. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Again, like I said, if I can see a lot of people wanting to come in to have their say, I can't seem to. I've got a glitch, so I can't bring you in. Either Sam can bring you in, or tag me in the comment section or in. Box me and I'll be able to bring you in via your profile. Jay Opondo Japir, please come in.
Thank you, and nice having this topic again. Good evening, everyone. Madam Juliana, I thank you again. Quickly, I wish to let you know that in this apartheid Uganda, we seem to be missing out some of the key points. Today, I will address you from UPC point of view. It appears the issue of the political party has been discussed, and I happen to be secretary, national secretary for mobilization for my party, and a former member of the National Candidates Committee of the Democratic Alliance in the 2016 elections in the country. I happen to have participated in the IPC processes at that time. My party at that point, when we discussed about the position unity, we supported, financed, and sponsored Semogero in 1996 elections. We have called upon all the political parties to come as a force so that we can face this leopard. And as you all are aware, the leopard is not about to change its spots. So as a UPC, we have always been ready to call in and to seek this unity. And mine today will be addressing or raising questions. I know all of you've been in politics, you know politics in Uganda, but I needed to challenge you from the ideological point of view. If you may be aware that since the restoration of the political parties in 2005, most of these so-called parties, we see them today, they couldn't meet the threshold to be registered with the electoral commission as political parties. And that led into enactment of another law called Political Parties and Organizations Act. That's when where NRM added the word O to qualify to be an organization. So it's not operating as a party, it's operating as an organization. Secondly, the constitution is so interested with what's called the movement political system as a system of governance. And the constitution is very categorically very clear that as long as NRMO is still in power, it will practice what's called NRM political system. So as we speak, we don't operate under multi-party politics or multi-party democracy with all its tenets that is required. We are operating under NRM political system, which completely is contrary to the traditions, customs of the laws of the land. Secondly, I need to address you aspect of aspect of unity. Are we ready as political forces or political forces who are seeking change so that we can face off? We all know that NRM has completely acted against the common interest and threatened our safety without any cause. It has acted with force and fraud. It has used intimidation. They have acted with terror, suppression of civil liberties, and they use a lot of we call it mass propaganda. I see it online as people are demonizing the return of Bobi Wine, and even within the FDC, they are demonizing. These are propagandists who are sponsored directly. So the border, these are intelligence agents who are working within the border structures, within the business communities, within the political forces, within schools and the institutions of learning and what have you. And you shall always receive these propagandists through public and what have you, demonizing and disagreeing with our interest. And I wanted to ask, is Britain ready to cede power to Rome in Ugandan politics? As the history has it, There's no Catholic leader that has been being a president of this country. Britain has a central interest in who comes into power and from which faith. We should have that into consideration. I wanted to inform you that the international community ready to declare any subsequent or upcoming elections and to deem it as not free and fair. Is the international community, Mr. Wine has been mobilizing in all the West, the East, the South, Central. Are they ready, as we speak, are they ready to declare and name Museveni as a dictator and put him among the list of the dictators and have him in the archive of the National Archive and the National Library of Australia? Are they ready to do that? As we already know that this is a country where we have human rights.
Opondo, just to as you wind up, if they're not ready, then what? If you could get to make your point, please.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Your question is no. Then what do you propose? Are you saying that we continue with the status quo with Museveni as the leader, or do you have an alternative suggestion?
To the contrary, I speak to you from the political academy called Uganda People's Congress. And the first thing, as we should be talking about, by what some would be also emphasizing on, is what's called ideological orientation. We saw the MPs as been criticized for appearing to take photo with the president of NUP, but they are not in the front line to do the mobilization and the fight. Some of these people who got elected into NUP tickets, they are ideologically bankrupt. They don't have what's called the political ideology. We are last since 2005. Quickly, I think for the interest of time, asking whether or not we should continue with Museveni. We should continue with a massive campaign to ensure that the international community appreciates that this man needed to be declared and listed among the dictators in Africa. Secondly, we needed to seek unity within the democracy-seeking forces. However much, even 10 or 20, we did that in TDA. And FDC specifically, Mr. Mugumya, they told us in the boardroom that FDC can do without TDA. When and how can they be ready to join forces with that, to fight, to have a front and a joint fight with these people? As you all know, somebody said our political leaders as failures. We also have aspect of mobilizing our religious groups. We know our bishops have greatly disappointed us. We know our generals. We talk about Lokech, who was the lion of the Mogadishu. We only know that he met his sticker end because he was seen to have been a threat. And are we able to mobilize our own people we know within the military and the civil forces to work with us?
Okay.
How do we encourage you that we continue?
You keep, sorry, Mr. Opondo, you keep asking questions, which is really interesting, and you talk about ideology. What ideological aspects of the UPC can explain Akena working with the current regime? What ideology in UPC can explain that Akena's wife is currently working for and with Museveni? You see, ideology is one thing. You can talk and it sounds, utopic and beautiful and whatever, but the reality, if the leader of the UPC party is actually in bed with Museveni, it makes it very complicated for those in the struggle to trust that that they can work with, for example, Akena.
Can I quickly on that?
I'll give you 1 minute to respond. Please go ahead.
Akena has neither legally, politically, or otherwise been the legitimate leader of UPC. It's the same kangaroo arrangement like it was done in the Katonga offices. The same thing Akena did. He overthrew his own government and the elected president of the party. We took him to court. Justice Nyazi ruled against him. He appealed, Court of Appeal. He lost it. He went to Supreme Court. He lost it. Akene is being kept in Uganda House by Museveni. Legally, he's not our president. Our constitutional party president of UPC is called Council Peter Walowiri. Among and the Akena, they are doing that because they're being rewarded for the work they have been doing for Mr. Museveni. And these are the elements of the opposition we say they are not there and ready and working for the unity. When I was in TDA as a member of UPC, my own members came to storm the TDA offices to pick UPC flag and take it away because they said they were not party to what was going on in TDA. We left them to go with the flag. We continue as the mainstream of the party and went ahead and we created that unity and we elected. We called for the point I want to emphasize is that the unity, what we need to do now, we need to create and form TDA kind of arrangement within the person to enable us to have an umbrella and the forum to bring all other political parties together to advocate for this immediate revolution. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Ed, yeah, Sam, please go ahead.
I request that I respond somehow to Mr. Opondo. First and foremost, let me begin with the question of ideology. You know, this is a word that is so lavishly used, but that we don't go deep, you know, to dissect. Every party has its ideology. And I think that what we are looking for as the opposition is a minimum program, the lowest common denominator that we share as the opposition. Because the reason we belong to different parties is because we have different ideologies. So it wouldn't be for me, for example, to begin probing the ideology of NUP or UPC or DP, because that is what makes us different. But in our different ideologies, we remain citizens of this country, and irrespective of our ideologies, we have one man that is oppressing us. So rather than look at the issues that vex us, that divide us, like ideology, for example, we should know that whatever ideology you have, Museveni will oppress you for his own interest. And therefore, we should seek to come together so that we liberate ourselves. Take, for example, when the world was threatened by Adolf Hitler, communist Stalin had to work with the capitalist Roosevelt for their common emancipation. It was after Hitler who attacked, both Europe and Russia had been, defeated, that then they went back to their Cold War, to their ideological disagreements. But their ideological disagreements would make no sense when Hitler was hell-bent on sweeping all of them off the face of the earth. And we have Hitler in Uganda. So let ideology not divide us. We can learn to live with difference and tolerance. Then the question of whether we are ready and the role of the West. I think that to me the question is, are we as Ugandans ready to free ourselves? Yes, it is important that we, have the international support. But in an event that these Western powers choose to stick with Museveni because he's doing their job in Somalia, he's their Nyampara, he's their foreman in the region, doing everything they want so that they don't pile pressure on him. Do we then, postpone indefinitely our struggle until we get their nod of approval? I don't think that we need anybody's approval for us to wage our struggle against a despot. It is us that are suffering the direct consequences of oppression. And for us to think that, we must first wait for Downing Street, 10 Downing Street to give us a go-ahead, then we are really fighting just to be slaves of the same people who will be, calling the tune. So we will be struggling to replace Museveni as their, because he's their servant. So we will be seeking to say, no, you see, we can be better servants. So choose us instead of him. Nobody is going to choose us. Nobody is going to flag us off. We are determined to fight for our freedom. Whether the world rallies behind the despot, we will continue the struggle. And God willing, we will triumph in spite of their support. Let me tell you, in Egypt, the West, the US, was behind Hosni Mubarak. All those other Western countries, Britain, they were behind Hosni Mubarak. But the Egyptians said, whether you want Mubarak or not, we will chase him. And they chased him. And once you chase him, then those other powers, they will come now to negotiate with you. Because it's not that they love Museveni as Museveni or any other despot for that matter. What matters to them is their interest. So, but we must look out for our own interest. We are not going to tag our freedom on the interests of Americans. Then coming to the question of TDA. Yes, TDA was an opportunity to unite the opposition. But interesting, I think you have laid out what happened. And I am happy that it happened the way it did. Why? Because the record must be set straight. At that time, Akena, Mao, the Miriam Matembes were the people in TDA. And they all rallied behind Mbabazi, Amama Mbabazi. Now ask yourself, where is Amama Mbabazi of TDA? He's with Museveni. Immediately after the election, he went back. He crossed back to Museveni. So much as we want unity, we want to unite with principled people that are interested in change, not just people who are dreaming of becoming presidents. The struggle is much more than who is going to become the next president. And Mbabazi just came, not because he believed in the cause. And I think that time has proven that, because immediately after the election, he goes back. And all those people who were indeed rallying against that time, Dr. Besigye, who at that time was, I think, the leading person in the opposition, Mao, where has he gone? Because he was one of the people making the loudest noise against Besigye and how he had betrayed the unity of opposition. Where is he today? Akena, where is he today? So, and actually the election, the people, you see, the problem with the elite, we tend to think that we are going to make decisions, and whatever decision we take, then the people.
Sam, I think I've lost you.
Who said that the intellectuals, the elite, must commit class suicide and present themselves as one with the people.
So, okay, so sorry, Sam, there's no point of information. Sorry, it's not.
Just 1 minute.
No. We'll be given
Let me just conclude, because I'm concluding my point. Maybe you can come in after. So what I was saying, you made a choice of Mbaba, but at the end of the day, the people spoke. And definitely what they said was a far cry from what you had chosen. So as you are making
Sam, we've lost you.
And you must know that they took consideration the views of the people. The people will not simply rally behind you because you've said I've brought this. No, they know what is good for them. And I think in that election, the people spoke where their hearts were. And definitely it was not with Mbabazi, whom you had chosen. I don't need to remind you the percentage that he got. Now, today, the people have also chosen the person they think will lead them. So it would be naive today for us to seek to unite, and then you say, no, but I think we should choose maybe Ofonopondo. No, people will not rally behind you. You must really be in touch with the reality when you are making choices. And I think that those who are genuinely interested in unity must take into account all these factors. Consider what the ground is like. Don't act from what you think it should be. Act from the point of how it is. And then take decisions that are in the best interest of the people that we belong to, that we are part of, and we lead. Not just because I am personally known to so and so, and maybe if he goes through, then he will appoint me to this position and things like that. So I think that also needs to be talked about. Unity must be with principled people, not just people who are coming to look for position, like clearly Amama Babas had come to do. And the former vice president, Bukenya, because remember, Bukenya was also on the list. Immediately Mbabas was announced, Bukenya ran back to Museveni's arms, but he was the second placed person in TDA. Mbabas took the first, I think Bukenya came second. So all the people you had chosen, you had prioritized, just run to Museveni even before the ink that you had ticked the ballots had dried. So where were you taking
that? No.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, Opondo, you're going to have 1 or 2 minutes since you have a right of reply. Then we're going to move on to the next person. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please
I want to inform.
Please kindly. Sorry, before you continue, can you kindly keep the time because we do have other people pending. Thank you.
Mr. Sam Ogumia, I was a member of the National Candidates Committee of the Democratic Alliance. Godubert Mushabe was working for FDC. Dr. Bishop Zak was working for FDC. Chairman Birigwa was working for FDC. Even where we camped in his resort in Busabara during election was his residence. Our choice was Besige. Mama came last when we ran out of option. Mao did not nominate himself. Kenya did not nominate himself. We're looking for a joint candidate. For your information, FDC pulled their candidate before even the election was ready to choose. All the election, all the priorities, all the favor was for FDC. FDC disappointed us. The same thing in IPC in 2010 when Dr. Tuno came. We were mobilizing members from our party to go and elect candidates the day when Otuno was wanted by Museveni's police to appear in the court. The same day, FDC set an election in Nikololo. So I wanted to bring this point that we have always lacked support and goodwill from our fellow opposition democratic forces. So for your information, we never worked to bring a Mama on board. A Mama came as a last resort because nobody was ready available. My own candidate, President Otuno, was not willing to nominate himself. We worked to bring FDC on board with a failures where we have Ingrid insulting this elder, other guy who left Amanya Moshega in the meeting. The gentleman even cried tears in the board meeting. So my point here is that we need to look for those guys who are sitting in the opposition who are ready and willing to unite. You cannot work as we are and we assume we are going to move mountains. I would call upon some, mobilize your members of FDC, let them appreciate that the unity, it can only be means for us to achieve our common cause. You can count on me. I'm still ready on the side of UPC to bring our forces on board to unite for the same cause.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Edgar, Norway, and then Nin, you've got your hand up. You can come in after Edgar briefly. Edgar, would you like to unmute, please, and come in?
Thank you, my dear sister Juliana, for the space, and the co-host Mugumia for the contribution. But I want to give him a guidance that he said that life without freedom is not life. I think in this world there's nothing that you can compare with life. He's saying all what he's saying because he's life. So we should appreciate the advantage of having life. So we shouldn't compare life with anything else. Number two, I want to thank Uganda Police and the sister security organization.
The opposition leaders that are currently in place.
No, if you are suggesting that President Museveni is the worst leader, then present to me the better option.
No. I didn't say he was the worst leader. I said to you, without having lived under another regime, how can you say that the current crop of opposition leadership is leading you into oblivion?
I am saying, if you are saying President Museveni is not the best we should be having, then we should be having a best alternative which has an ideology, which has a clear program that is giving Ugandans hope. Are you getting me?
Yeah, that's fair enough. As you conclude,
just I want to respond to me. He's telling us which President hanging there.
Okay, no problem. Sam, would you like to respond? He's asking you a question.
Yes, please. May I? Of course. Thank you, Mr. Edgar. Your own very first statement, I think, says a lot about your expectations. And therefore, I wouldn't be surprised that your subsequent submissions follow the same. That you thank police for not killing Ugandans is stating. I don't know, Mr. Edgar, if I gave you my daughter, my young daughter, to travel with, and maybe you are traveling home, and you are my neighbor, and I say, okay, since I'm not traveling to the village, I'm trusting you with my young daughter, take her to the village. And when you reach there, I call you and thank you and say, oh, please, Mr. Edgar, thank you very much for not defiling my daughter. Would you consider that a compliment or
and they behind
the
and definitely those are not statements that I have made. I am very sure of what I say. And you should worry about your future, because I think that you have really given up. You feel like without Museveni, the country will collapse. But I want to assure you, Uganda was there before Museveni. Uganda is there in spite of Museveni, not because of him. And Uganda will be there even when Museveni has gone. And we can dare to imagine and forge a better future for this country. What you are suffering from is a syndrome that many slaves suffered from during slavery. When people came out to lead the anti-slavery struggles, I think Malcolm X classified them in two categories: the house slave and the field slave. There are those slaves who could not dare imagine that they can survive without their masters. And when they were, those were the house slaves, because they were being given some little food, that the leftovers from the master's table. But the field slaves who were always working from morning up to late in the night, being mistreated, being beaten every day, they were saying anywhere is better than here. But the house slave who was eating crumbs was saying, I
respond just 1 minute to
Literally, I'm giving you 1 minute as a courtesy. Please go ahead. 1
Mugumi,
minute.
I just want to give me hope, to tell me life after Museveni as a desperate Ugandan. I don't just want you to keep saying that we just want despot Museveni out of power. Just tell me after Museveni, this is what we are going to have, this is what our life is going to be.
Yes, thank you very much. I think that your question is legitimate and it has been, parroted all over. First and foremost, I'll just break down a few statistics for you to understand the kind of country we are living in, to actually show you that even though you think you are okay, you are really bad off. The Indian community in Uganda is 1% of the total population of Uganda. This 1% of the Indian community contributes almost 70% of all our revenue. When you add other investors that we have, the Chinese, the South Africans, MTN, Airtel, and all those, they contribute over 90% of all the revenue that we collect in Uganda. What does that mean? It means that at the most, 2% of Uganda's population contributes 90%, which means that 98% of the population contributes almost 10%. Now, if you get the few rich people who are in Uganda, maybe the Wafamonos and all those, they will take the 8%. So you'll find that me and you, our contribution to national gross product, GNP, is less than 2%. Therefore, an ordinary Ugandan, you, because I am sure that you are like me, we contribute almost nothing to national development. Yet we are told that the country is developing. So whose development is it? Now, what we want to see is a balanced development whereby you and I can make a meaningful contribution to the development of our country. If you want to know how people are economically empowered, you have to look at what they contribute towards their national development. So if you are contributing nothing, then you are really not empowered at all. And that is something that we will have to work on. The state must invest and make sure that they have a productive society. These programs that they bring, like the parish development model, you call a whole village and give them 1 million, 10 million to share among 400,000 people. That is really an insult to Ugandans, because we have had a time when we indeed, like you said, you have lived virtually all your life, and I'm 70. We had cooperative unions. I am sure you are from the West by your name. You had Banyankore Kweterana. Ask those people there. Banyankore Kweterana used to give scholarships to the best students. Banyankore Kweterana empowered households because they were producing coffee. When Museveni came, he killed off all cooperatives. And what did he bring? SACCOs. How do you kill Banyankore Kweterana and you bring a SACCO that will be lending money? Because SACCOs are just money lenders. They are not engaged in any production. And no country can develop on lending money. A country can only develop a people can be economically empowered if they are organized to produce. And that's the key difference that we will bring, that will make you and me produce, grow our coffee. If you are in Lango, you grow your cotton.
Nice. Okay,
Can I make my conclusion?
no, and unfortunately you can hold on, but I'm going to bring some other people in. Sarah, let's have some ladies. Sarah, Nin, and then we can have, I think it's Ernest. It's supposed to be Ernest. Aine. Sarah, please come in.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much. I was going to address a few things, but luckily Sam has broken them down much better than I would have. And obviously, this is in response to the gentleman who was asking about development and stuff. And obviously, I would encourage him to look more at our GDP as well as the unemployment rate in Uganda and look at the age bracket that is actually unemployed, and then you can be able to see where we're headed at in the next 5, 10, 15 years. Obviously, it's not looking good. Look at how much employment is being created or not created, and then you can work out, obviously, with the figures that Sam has given us in terms of who is contributing the most to the economy and who isn't. So away from that, well, the gentleman's arguments are quite interesting, and it's interesting to have these ideas here. So it shows us where we are at, and one of the things I was thinking,
people posting sticks and on social media, insinuating that that's what's going to happen with the opposition. You think that's funny? Seriously, guys, let's grow up. Why do we think that beating somebody who doesn't support us is like something funny? Like, why do you think that everyone should support you in RM? How many members of parliament have you got? You're in government. You have the majority. For how many years have you had majority? What have you done with it? Why would you be obsessed with a minority of 60 MPs, really? This is where civic education comes in, like Sarah said. But I don't think I think some Ugandans are really privileged, and they just look away and think, they're comfortable in their own skin, in their own legal stuff, and probably they know somebody in the regime, or they're comfortable in their jobs. They have maybe a car with petrol. They have a fence over their houses, because I think that's like the norm now in Uganda. If you have a car, if you have a gated house, and maybe if your children are going to school, and then you have a mobile phone. I really don't know what's happening with this young generation. And you look around the rest of the world, you see the young people as watching the conservative conference in Manchester. These young boys in uni at 17, 20, they are making impactful statements. But our people really have been, and it goes back to the regime. This government is there to make people poor. You talk about the international community giving us money to cater for Muntu. We know this. The only thing you want about Muntu is taking pictures with them. We've seen Balaam go to, is it Kochegum? He goes with 5 T-shirts. He gathers around 1,000 people. Of course they're going to fight for them. Of course they want something to wear. These are destitutes. And you post on social media blogging about people having T-shirts for MK. Are you crazy? They are destitutes. They want something to wear. Why are you so out of touch with reality about the people on the same country with us? These are Ugandans. Like, why would you want to see people so poor? Recently, I know most of you here, if you can, I know you've had this. There's an audio going on. This guy is from Western Uganda. He's singing about, I think it's about 15-minute audio. He's lamenting about the money that the president gave to tea growers in Western Uganda. And apparently this money, 40 billion, can you imagine, didn't reach the people that were supposed to. And I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Like, seriously. And instead of naming these people who have taken the money, you're lamenting to the person who gave money to the wrong people, which people probably he knew was going to benefit them. And you're telling this guy that, oh, come on, Mr. President, the money you sent here didn't reach here. How did you expect that money to get to you? He gave to the people that were supposed to benefit from it.
Thank
Ugandans
you.
need to wake up from this slumber that we've accustomed ourselves to. And finally, to Mr. Pondo, he talked about the international community. I don't think the international community is bothered about what's going on in Africa. Seriously, if you're in war or whatever, still we shall drink our coffee. There's going to be tea coming in from all over the world. Brazil grows coffee. Look at what happened in West Africa. The international community is not bothered about us. So really don't look there for anything. And you talked about the oppositions coming together and combine and maybe forming some unity. But if you're not organizing your parties, if you say that Kenya, the president for UPC is now under the wing of Museveni, and you have not even tried to break away from that, you're still thinking you're UPC, who's going to trust you? Nobody. Come on, organize your houses, make strong
Okay.
parties, make strong institutions, and then people will trust you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm really going to be brief. I'm going to do it this way. Kareem, Ernest, MC, and then the I, and then one, the Quizera. You can come in last. Okay, Kareem, if we can be brief, please unmute and come in.
Hello, hi, thank you so much, Juliana and Mr. Mugomia for the time for hosting the space. And I would want to thank the courageous ones that we are still with here who braved and went to Entebbe to welcome the Honorable Robert Chagulanyi. I would echo the sentiments of Mr. Mugomia when he said, until we as Ugandans are brave enough to stand up and resist the regime, these things are going to continue occurring. There is no circumstance where an authoritarian regime is going to give us, power on a silver platter. There is need for us to redirect. There is need for us to work together as Ugandans. If the call is out there for people to stand up, I think it's incumbent to each one of us to stand up and speak up. I would also want to talk about a few things some comrades were talking about, thanking the comrade who was thanking police for not killing people. It's really unfortunate. And he was hiding behind ideology. I don't know which ideology he follows that allows for government to use the institutions against its own people. I don't know whether that's an NRM ideology, but I think that's one that they have, consistently followed, weaponizing institutions against their its own people. So if that's the ideology they would want Ugandans to follow, unfortunately, we shall stay in the revolving door. We cannot dream beyond our exposure. I've been hearing comrades like Edgar, their exposure has been NRM. That's all they have seen. That's their light. That's their darkness. That's their TV and that's their radio. That's what they listen to. That's what they see. And unfortunately, they have not been very exposed. They have not even tried to learn from, other countries in Africa, how they have managed to evolve from authoritarian to somewhat democratic countries. So unfortunately, I don't know the best way to advise people like that. I know they might be sponsored by the regime, and sooner or later, I'm going to let you know that we shall put up a resistance to people like you who clap for police killing people online. We managed to do that in 2020, and about 500 Twitter handles were closed by Twitter here that were state sponsored. So regime sponsored, apologists here who were clapping. Yes.
Karim, to be fair, I don't think Edgar usually attends my spaces, and I can't vouch for him, but I think it's his personal opinion and not necessarily a paid one. Even though we don't necessarily agree, I think he's just, another Ugandan who just so happens to support the regime. But I wouldn't go as far as say that he's sponsored. But I hear your point. But in the case of Edgar, I think he's just an ordinary Ugandan who happens to like the regime and sees no problems with it, really, I think. Please, as you conclude, please continue.
I will stop here to allow for other comrades to contribute.
Thank
Thank you so much. Thank you so much again.
Thank
Yes,
you
yes.
so much. We do not report
No, we're
Edgar's
good.
account.
My sister Yurian, can I respond, Karim?
Okay, you have 1 minute, and then we'll bring somebody else in. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Julian, and thank you, Karim. But I must tell him that, one, I am entitled to my opinion. Two, you can also, what if I say that you are also being sponsored by those foreigners and Bobi Wine and what? How would you feel, and what would you say about that? So let's respect everyone's lane. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ernest, and then MC.
Thank you, host and the co-host, the speakers, and the listeners. Thank you for this beautiful space. I come from the West. Actually, I'd come to clarify on my point about the people, like we the Westerners, they think maybe we are benefiting from the regime. And then I found Edgar is also talking his mind, what is in his mind. And then it made me to feel then some people we give hard time to people to defend us, like you Westerners. We see what is going on really, the country is at its worst, even the blind person can see it, And then a person like Edgar is coming out saying something, that is ridiculous, I can say, because if he can applaud the police not killing people, it's it's what he was waiting for, then at least it has made me feel if really you are Ugandan and you are not far, you are in the country, you don't know, you know what is going on in the country, and then you can say something like that, then I don't know. I come from Kanungu. Kanungu is between two national game parks. That is Queen Elizabeth and Bwindi Impenetrable. But those who have been there, when you go there and see the roads, you see the infrastructure there, you see the hospital, you see everything. You can even cry, But if you see someone like it, even know if you go to the West, if you go to the West, you can see completely there is nothing. But you see someone like him is making a round of applause, he's really celebrating them, So for sure, my brother, I don't know if you really you see what is going on, but I've said, you are entitled to your opinion. I give it. Okay, you are okay with it, but at least allow us to express our opinions when we, most especially we are talking about the opposition. You understand? So it's not you to direct us, to tell us your things, how you are happy with the police, something like that. But back at the point of the opposition, I think today, may I stay in Entebbe? I've just realized it. Maybe Ugandans were not ready for change. When you talk this, some people will think maybe you're stupid, but I don't know. I don't think we are ready. We are not even in 0.05%. You know, we are just waking up like to see some other people like on the streets, maybe in the interview. They're busy working, like, you know. So I don't know about how we will overcome this, but I don't think we are not even like even close. And what I can encourage, I just request, you know, I am seeing here some big people. I just request some, maybe our opposition leaders. We have other things we can focus, like, you know. Let's also maybe we build the mindset of the people. Like at least if we fail like to remove the dictator, but let's build the people, like the young people, you know. We are out of our minds, you know. Young people are they just think what is right, what they think is right, what they believe in. Some people tell them other things, you know, and just go with that. So I just think we can build the people's minds. We can have some positive. Then we wait that day when the guy is no more, because we all know. We have to be assured that yeah, sure, he will leave, but he will leave, but the Musevenism will not leave, you know, because he's trying to imply it in everyone's mind, you know. So I think the leaders have that role to play, like, you know. At least let us build the young people in other sectors, you know, not just focusing on, because completely we are not ready. That's, if I'm to be honest with you, we
Thank
are
you so
not.
much, Ene. Okay. Thank you so much for your submission. MC Mose, if we can be brief, I have quite a lot of people waiting. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I'm going to start with questions regarding Bobby Wine's, regarding the headline, Bobby Wine's return and arrest today. Going to mention a few things that might rub off some people. As you said, that Edgar came off with an opinion that somehow rubbed off people. You know, it could be wrong timing and wrong set of time for what he said. I'm also glad that there is no one died, but it doesn't mean that whatever police whatever source of power police use to prevent death is right. The good thing in it that no one died, but it doesn't change the fact that the approach or the conduct wasn't right. So I think sometimes we are going to misunderstand each other in terms of language and the words, the choice of words. My question to Mr. Sam is regarding this public order management, because what we don't realize is, in most cases, not only in Uganda, powers use laws that have been implemented to somehow make it life difficult for oppositions. Not only in Uganda, Zimbabwe, even in America, everywhere. This is a natural thing in terms of political positions and those in power. So, being, for safeguarding reason, should we or should people have processions when they are coming from abroad? This is not to do with only Bobby Wine; it's to do with musicians and everyone. What's the importance of having a procession from Entebbe to Kampala? That is a question I'm going to leave to Mr. Sam Mugubya. It's not attached to any kind of politics or whatsoever, because when you look at it in a broader aspect, you realize that, well, this Bobby Wine's issue is more of a politicized thing and a neutralizing tactic. But I've seen so many times that even these TikTokers, when they're coming from somewhere, they want to have a procession from Entebbe to Kampala, which in the end sometimes disorganizes people's businesses and reckless accidents and stuff like that. Again, that is nothing to do with today's incident, but I felt like maybe I should point that out. Going back to politics, I will somehow reassure everyone that we don't have Museveni for a very long time. And I've mentioned it before that the main problem we have is we talk so much about a person and we forget about the disease. I call it a disease because what happens is if, for example, one cell, one disorganized cell goes in your body, it creates more cells, and then you have a serious disease. So what we have in Uganda now, we have an incompetent government and incompetent leaders. You all see what Nabanja is going on with the other lady. I forgot her name. So when you look at the global political spectrum, things are changing. Many long-standing governments in Africa, they are changing because global powers are changing. This is going to Mr. Sam. Where do you see, because I see everyone keeps saying, oh, Bobi Wine has so many supporters and foreigners are giving him money. I don't know where this rhetoric came from, because Museveni gets most of his funding from foreigners as well, as Sam pointed it out. So you see that whoever is not agreeing with Bobi Wine is using the word he's getting money from foreigners. And this brings us back to our role in global politics. Because as you see, global politics is changing politics in Africa. You see all these coups coming up. It's all to do with the changes of power in global politics. So I have hope that very soon the change will come to Africa, but I mean to Uganda. But what worries me is that even us, the people who are so eager to see a new government, we don't sound like we are ready. We have been divided for a long time because we've had a government that has had a divide and rule, something ingrained in our society. That's why we see we are intolerant of other people. But that is something we must accept, that it is part of us being Ugandans. We're never ever going to agree on one thing. Okay. So that is a problem we have. So my question, I've finished. I know time is running out. So Mr. Sam Mugumi, I hope you'll be able to answer those two questions. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Sam, would you like to come in briefly? And then after Sam, can we please have, after Sam, can we have the I, Mbuga Hakim, and then can we have Chris Zera, and then we'll have Toth after that? Or Tawupe? I don't know. Okay, so Sam, I'll let you go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Are you getting me?
Yes, very well.
Okay, thank you. Beginning with the public order management, the question on whether we should have processions. I think that processions and other such public activities are enshrined in the Constitution. I think the whole of Chapter 4 of the Constitution talks about our rights and freedoms. And the freedom to associate, to demonstrate, and even to hold processions is guaranteed by the Constitution. Maybe what we should be talking about is how they can be organized so that in the process of enjoying one's right, another person's right is not, violated or prejudiced. Because we have very many processions. I don't know whether the activity still happens these days, where people hold wedding processions. You'll find a fleet of cars, driving from church to, the wedding venue. People hold funeral processions. So which processions are supposed to be allowed and which ones are not supposed to be allowed? So what we need is how they are managed so that they do not interfere with other people's activities. And unfortunately, police seems to be of the view that, especially if it is opposition leaning, that therefore they must be stopped. No, we need to have people, coming out to enjoy, people coming out to celebrate. I remember when Gaetano was coming from Big Brother house, I think that was 2003. Nobody complained that, there are other activities going on. When we are receiving Kiprotich or whoever has done well, police never deems it necessary to stop them because people are doing businesses. So why is it that when Bobby Wine or Dr. Vesige is coming, they get concerned about people's businesses? So what we need is to have managed processions. Allow people to have their procession without any, obstructing or interfering with other people. That is what will happen to help us to move forward. And we have seen it. The other day when Bobby Wine was having his activities in all the areas where he went, they were peaceful. Nobody complained that my business was attacked or property was destroyed. And to me, I would be the last person to call for the banning of processions because I think that it's an inherent right. Now, on the question of the opposition always being accused of, getting funding from the West, that is propaganda. Because, like you rightly pointed out, the despot receives the biggest military support, military aid in terms of training, equipment, and even finance from the West to fight their wars in Somalia, in Central African Republic, and everywhere where their interests are threatened. But when it comes to, back home, he wants to pose as this Pan-Africanist who is championing the African cause, who is standing up against the West, so that he tells everybody what they want to hear. When he's with the West, he's willing to do what they want. When he's with his fellow Africans, he poses as the champion of the African cause. When he's in Uganda, he masquerades as the champion of the national interest and then paints the opposition as being the agents of imperialism, so that he creates this, bad blood between people and their leaders. But we need to make it clear. First and foremost, I don't think that the opposition is anti-West. And they don't need to be anti-West or anti-anybody. They only have to be pro the national interest, which I believe we are. We must, put the national interest first. We can peacefully coexist with everybody else because we are not going to live in the world alone. But we must coexist with everybody defending our national interest, which the despot has failed to do. Just like I pointed out when I was answering someone, the economy of Uganda is in the hands of foreigners. But we are told that it is Ugandans to develop Uganda. So we are basically spectators in our own development. We are in the spectator stands. You remember the president was boasting that an investor came, and when the prime minister, the late Apollon Sebambi, told him that, you have to write to him, the prime minister, and follow the required procedures to invest. And the president told his prime minister that man will not write to you. Who are you to ask an investor to write to you? But if an investor cannot write to the prime minister, the third highest person in the hierarchy, I think he's the fourth highest person in the hierarchy of our order of precedence, how will he treat me, an ordinary Ugandan? So that tells you where Museveni's heart is. It is with the foreigners that have money. And that cannot be a way of defending the national interest. So they will call the opposition all that they want. They will say we are.
As I may steal just a second from finish.
Sorry, MC, can you please let Sam finish and then you can come in? Yeah, Sam, as you conclude, please come in.
So they try to, create that impression. But at the end of the day, we are trying to create a country that defends the national interest, but also that is at peace with other countries. We are not, hungering for, conflict with other countries. I think we can live at peace with everybody else. We can work with everybody else. I am one of the staunch believers of the non-aligned movement, that we don't have to ally ourselves with Russia or America or China. Those are their wars. They don't concern us. If China has issues with the Americans, let them sort their issues. We don't have to be forced to take sides when they are, fighting for their own issues. We only have to look at our own interest. Having good relations with China does not mean that we must have bad relations with the USA. Or if we have good relations with the USA, does not mean that we must therefore necessarily have bad relations with Russia. We need to have our interests very clearly spelled out and defend them against whoever threatens them. Whether it's the Chinese, whether it's the Americans, whether it's the Egyptians, whether it is who, we protect our national interest and offer our hand of friendship to the world.
Thank you. Okay, MC, briefly, 1 minute.
Yeah, very briefly, because he somehow managed, somehow touched on what I was going to ask. Because my last question was about the global climate, political climate, and opposition being accused of being foreign agents and whatsoever. So I wanted to ask that him, with the experience, with the wealth of experience being opposition, why is it always difficult for the opposition to openly declare their allyship, in terms of, because as he said, our economy, and when you look at African changes in politics, whatever has happened in other countries, you see the influence of Western powers. But when it comes to opposition, if Museveni keeps accusing oppositions, why is it so hard for the opposition to openly express their interest in the allyship, whether it's China or Russia? Why is it always in denial? Because I mean, if you're coming to power, it shouldn't be a problem to, be open about your allyship. That is just like a curiosity. It's not a question.
Yes, maybe what we also need to know is that today, every country, whether it's China, whether it is the USA, whether it is Russia, or whoever else it may be, they have their interests. And the person that can serve their interests right now is Museveni. For example, we can say that, yeah, we are allied with the Americans, but America's interests in the region are especially in Somalia, the war on terror. So Museveni has the army to send to Somalia. The opposition doesn't have the army. So whereas we seem to profess the same values that the Americans profess, democracy, human rights, and all that, we are reading from the same page. When it comes to their interest in terms of fighting terrorism, which counts more than the values they profess, then Museveni has the upper hand there. When it comes to China, he's allowing them to come in without following any due process. They are literally, carrying away our wealth. And he does all this to make sure that they don't rise up against him. Now, the first thing that we have to do before we even consider who is going to be our ally or who will not be our ally is what do we stand for as ourselves. Because once we agree on that, then it will be easy to know who then is our ally in as far as the interests that we are championing are concerned. It's not just a question of saying, I am for the other ones or the other ones. It is how do they relate with our interests. And I think that that's a discussion that really needs to be promoted, to be engaged in at a very deeper level, and then we decide. But what I know is those other people are also pursuing their own interests. So we are not at war with anybody, but we are not just going to declare for the sake of declaring that we are for this one or the other one. We are for Uganda and whoever wishes Uganda well.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, the three-eyed, I don't know, I can't see the rest of your name. Mbuga Hakim, would you like to please unmute and come in, and then we can have Quizera.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm Mbuga Hakim. I'm from Chito Magere. Some people have been asking why we are not joining the struggle, like on the ground. We are not rising up. I was born here. I was raised here. I used to be proud that we have two presidents. That is the people's president, Dr. Besigye, and the ghetto president, because Bobi Wine was the ghetto president then. So growing up, I started from here. 2011, I was in senior 3. That is when walk to work happened. I remember I was walking to school. Then Dr. Besigye was behind, and then tear gas started. So I was very angered and annoyed. I decided to join the struggle. I was very active. This was the epicenter of uprisings. We used to call it Benghazi. This area, that is Wampeo, Kasangati, Magere, Kumunana, Kumbuzi, and everywhere. So we were very active. Now, these days, we are no longer active. And you know why? So I support FDC because
we don't know why. We don't know why. Would you like to tell us why?
Yeah, I'm telling you why. Why we gave
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Because people have been raising this question. Now I'm telling you why we gave up. I think when Bobi Wine came in 2017, that was the first time he was introduced to us under the people power thing. I remember the inauguration was at Makerere. I was a student there then. The problem with Bobi Wine and the reason as why we are no longer active is that Bobi Wine surrounded himself with bad people. That's the truth. He cannibalized on FDC, which would be normal under normal circumstances.
So sorry to interject. Can you define what you mean by bad people in your view? Who are bad people?
I remember during that conference at Makerere, it was called the reunion. All the speakers that were invited, the likes of Romushana, Abedi Wanika, Norbert Mao, were attacking Dr. Besigye. And remember, Dr. Besigye was the strongest opposition leader then. So we people who subscribed to FDC were not happy with it. Then after that reunion, Bobi Wine became MP, and they were working under, and during Tojikwata, they were working under the people power umbrella. I remember even the likes of Semjung and almost everyone in the opposition were part of that group, including Katolu Bwama. So after Tojikwata ko, then Arua happened, and Arua I think shoot Bobi Wine very, very high, and he forgot the people I mean, he forgot the people he was supposed to surround himself with. He dumped the likes of Lukwago, the likes of Semjunganda, the likes of Katoro. You know, Katoro Wama was a bit comical. He was very angered with Bobi Wine, but he had his reasons and they were legitimate. So he surrounded himself with the likes of Abedi Wanika, who abused Dr. Besigye on a daily basis. You cannot tell me that you are friends with Bobi Wine and Dr. Besigye is the monster. As a fan of Dr. Besigye, I could not subscribe to Bobi Wine's cause.
So, Mbuga, so sorry to interject again, because I find you fascinating. I find your submission very interesting. So for you, it's not so much about changing Uganda or removing Museveni. You're more interested in the personality, what I like to call the personality cult, or the personalities. You're more interested in how your candidate is treated. That's more important, for example, than removing Museveni. So for you, it's about the personalities.
No, it's not about personalities, but remember, it's not about personalities, but you need everyone in this fight. So if you isolate some people, we are supposed to be on the same team. We are not supposed to be cannibalizing on each other or eating each other. We're supposed to work together. Now he's the strongest opposition leader. He was supposed to bring us together. I don't understand why Bobi Wine had to fight the likes of Kasibante Moses. He had brought Nabila to fight off Lukwago. Those things don't make sense.
Sorry, I think
we know that Nabila
Bobi Wine did not bring. Okay. Well, all right. Please finish your submission, and then I'll move on to the next person. Please go ahead. My apologies.
I was saying, I think Bobi Wine has to look into this. Let him try to bring us all together. You understand? Bobi Wine did not condone the attacks on Besigye, but he did not condemn them either. People members were attacking Kakwenza yesterday. So those things, and we are all oppressed. Even Kakwenza is more oppressed than me because I'm in Uganda. Kakwenza is in exile. So Bobi Wine did not condone and did not condemn. That is my problem. He was supposed to come out, tame these guys. We all belong to the opposition, but
okay. This is you expect. So just to be clear, you expect Bobi Wine to tame, as you put it, fully grown adults with their own agency and decision-making capacity. You think that, with all the little petty abuses that we all get daily, that Bobi Wine should be the one in charge of telling those people off. Do you think that's his role as a leader?
Now, if people are grown up, if people are grown up, can make their own decisions, they can decide who to abuse, who not to abuse. Then why do you think they cannot decide when to uprise and when not to? If he can, encourage us, yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Let him just talk about it.
All right.
Maybe Yoriana, if you could allow me to chip in a bit.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Three-Eyed Raven. I think that yes, there was a time when the competition between NUP and especially FDC was especially acrimonious. But I think that what we need to do is really to allow time.
People posting sticks and on
the competition between NUP and especially FDC was especially acrimonious. But I think that what we need to do is really to allow time to heal our wounds. We need to move on. Yes, nasty words were said by both groups. Of course, especially, I think I understand the raw feelings that most of the activists have that were in the struggle for quite some time, and then only to come to be, called all kinds of things. But in the struggle, we really need to limit our sentiments and focus on the essentials. If we are to continue with the wounds that we suffered in 2017, 2018, 2021, then we will continue to have those wars between ourselves, and the enemy will be there relaxing. The people you talk about, Abed Bwanaka and all that, time has sorted them out. I think now everybody knows where they belong. Now everybody knows that actually what they were saying, they were, basically on their mission, which has been exposed. So do we continue our wars with those people who thought that Abed Bwanaka was their ally, but he has since proven that he was not? Or do we mend fences and then become a strong force and then move forward? I think that that's what we need to do. And that's what I was talking about, that when you read most of the comments that have been posted today, some of my comrades in FDC, we are feeling happy that, you see, you said that when these things were happening to us, it was comedy. Now it has happened to you. What is it? So if that is how we are going to proceed, then we will remain stuck with the despot for a very long time. So let us not, look through each other. Let us see each other through. We need to unite. We need to
revolt against this dictatorship. There must be unity. One, unity beyond political parties, unity beyond ethnic backgrounds, unity beyond everything. Ugandans must be united beyond everything. Because literally you can see we still have comrades like Mbu who think they cannot go into an action whereby Bobby Wine is heading it, because literally there are some petty conflicts among leaders. So my submission will stop there, Juliana. But I want lastly before I go, I want people to literally forgive speakers like Edgar. However much he said he came out to give out his opinion, but people like Edgar are brainwashed by propagandists of NRM. There are people whom they tell that they cannot leave. They don't know their security after Museveni being a president of Uganda.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Cope?
Twape Michael.
Twape. Okay, Twape Michael, please come in. Thank you, Kwizera.
Thank you very much, Yulia, for your space. And Edgar. Not Edgar. Mugume.
It's Sam Mugumya.
Mugumya, yes. I actually know him very well, but then I have another person who had a similar name with his, and I mix them up sometimes. Now, I just have a thinking that Ugandans need to really rediscover purpose. I happened to have been among the people who started Reform Agenda about 2000. And from that time, being active in politics, I noticed one thing, that Museveni has mastered the art of playing with Ugandans, to the extent that the people who work for him keep creating an impression of every now and then creating support. They fabricate support for somebody because they want to shoot one down. Then sometimes this person overwhelms them. Ugandans want change. But the problem is they are not discovering purpose of where they should go. I would give you an example. I was part of the TDA. Honestly speaking, we thought we were arriving towards a direction. But when we were at Katomi, hosted by Gilbert Bukenya for the meeting of TDA, before the principals could sit down and agree on who should, because the principals agreed among themselves. It was not an issue of all of us electing that so and so should be a leader. It was clear when we were at Katomi that already DP was compromised, UPC was compromised, the party of Betty Kamia, I don't remember its name, was compromised. The only party which was not compromised at that time was FDC. And that is why Dr. Besigye also sensed it, and then he walked out and opted not to go further with any engagement in the TDA. Now, Museveni creates himself very vulnerable to you as an individual. I personally have met Museveni. And when I met Museveni, when I was picked from my village to be taken to Museveni, I was like, today he's going to see, I will tell him. But he starts the talking to you, he's the president, remember? He makes himself so vulnerable that you will fail to say anything. I met with Norbert Mao shortly before he met Museveni. And he told me, they have been calling me, I am going to tell him this. What I told him is exactly what he's like later on saying. He became a minister, and the best he does is to just condemn things which are happening in the watch of his eyes. The same thing has happened to Akena, and now I've seen it has happened in FDC. You're going to see Ekanya, you're going to see Mafavi, and the current president, Engineer Power, all of them becoming apologists of Museveni because of the way Museveni works. Now, he creates an impression that everybody else is working for him if you're coming up. Even the people my friend here is calling bad guys who were around Bobby Wine. There are people who were recruited for Bobby Wine and put around to abuse Besigye so that it should not create any scenario of Besigye working together with Bobby Wine. Because what could Besigye and Bobby Wine do together? It would be something very serious. So now, I would really think we may need to walk away from the people we think are leaders. We don't have leaders among so many of these people you are seeing there. Many people are self-seekers, and they use Besigye, use Bobby Wine, use the popular people to come up and seem to appear around popular people so that they win people's favor and be in political positions. But when the real fire comes, they run away. I remember from 2001, whenever we had anything, I was that time the president of students in the country. When we came up to have anything, all these men would run away. We remained there alone and face the soldiers until the latter. Sometimes even when people are arrested and we have to go and release them in courts of law, all of them run away. We are the ones who are running up and down, looking for the money, looking for lawyers to release people in the opposition. So I really think we need to rediscover purpose, reorganize ourselves, and we may not even, Ugandans need to just wake up once and do it. Because organizing yourselves gives time for Museveni to look at it and say, this is their next move, we are going to do it. I would imagine, well, it's the state anyway. If Bobby Wine announced that he's coming at 10 today, and he came yesterday with his people aware that he was coming, they would have surprised the state, perhaps. But because the state controls everything, they even know who is on a passenger manifest in a plane, it becomes difficult. Unless Bobby Wine stops in Kenya or Rwanda and comes through Kabale and surprises people from there. But Ugandans are really mixed up, and I really think we need to reorganize ourselves. The whole thing is that everything is ripe for change. The people are yearning for change. The challenge is that we are playing in the hands of Museveni. Some people can say that we don't need to be talking about Museveni. Oh, we are talking about an individual, talking about an individual. Museveni has personalized the country, that he's in control of everything. Now, you cannot organize anything until we first deal with Museveni. And how do we deal with Museveni should be the issue of discussion. And I think every right-thinking Ugandan who wishes Uganda well really needs to have an understanding that the situation in our country is bad. You don't need to be exposed and move to other countries to know that the situation is bad. I would give you a very basic example. 20 years ago, Rwandese would come from Rwanda to our hospitals in Kabale, and they come and study in Uganda. But today it has changed. Ugandans are living and going for medical treatment in Rwanda. Our healthcare is dead. Our education is dead. We don't have a judiciary. We don't have a police. Everything is not working in the country. Well, someone will tell you that if you want to know that things are working in the country, go to Entebbe to welcome Bobby Wine and see what would happen to you. The state, the police is just used as a coercive arm of the regime. And so many things, we need to come around the table, resort ourselves, and focus a way forward for the country. Otherwise, we are continuously heading to a very terrible direction. It's already bad. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that submission. Okay, I can see there's so many people who want to come in and have their say. Sadly, we have really run out of time because I know it's extremely late in Uganda, it's late in Europe, it's still okay in the Americas, but for a lot of people out there, it's extremely late. We will be back on Sunday to continue this conversation, 7 p.m. Sunday East African time. I think for now, it was important. I felt that we had this conversation and we talked about events today. We cannot exhaust the topic. It's huge. It involves many, many facets. And I think we need to take each part of the whole as individually and dissect it and perhaps then come up with some answers. For now, however, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank Sam, who very graciously agreed to co-host with me today. His submissions are always top notch. So thank you so much, Sam. I don't know if you've got something to add, but before I close the space.
Yes,
But yeah, thank you so much to everybody who contributed. And Edgar, again, this is not, please do come back. You are entitled to your opinions. We may not all agree, but we will defend your right to say whatever you have. Excellent day tomorrow. Let's continue with this. I think personally, I would like to end this by commending Bobby Wine. It is not easy for any man to have to face the prospect of perhaps they might not make it home that day to their children, knowing what he endured in Arua, knowing what this regime is capable of, but still standing up and facing them. A lot of people have been happy and smiling that he failed in his attempts, to do anything, but at least he tried. He tried. Yes, he may not have achieved his goal, but he wasn't sat down, doing nothing. He actively stood up in view of what could happen. This regime is capable of anything. I think you only need to ask Kakwenza and many, many more people who've gone through this. So for me, I'd like to say bravo to Bobby Wine, bravo to all those foot soldiers, the unnamed faceless foot soldiers who today had to, have been arrested, who are spending the night in jail. We criticize from the comfort of our homes sometimes, or offices, or wherever we are, or from the comfort of being middle class and well-to-do in Uganda, and laugh and point fingers and say, they didn't succeed, or, haha, you thought you were going to get $1 million, where is your million? That sort of mockery, for me, just energizes me, and I hope spurs other people on, because at least Bobby Wine did go around the country, did go around the world talking about what's happening in Uganda. And he did stand up and he did face it. And for me, it's cowardly to abduct an unarmed musician or creative or artist with guns and tanks, and he still stood his ground. So I feel for the gentleman who was attacked and assaulted at his home in Uganda. We say Eziga Lyomusajja. I think it's very I don't know the saying, but it's very difficult to watch a man cry in that sort of pain. So I say bravo to them who stood up to be counted, and we shall continue to support them. Thank you so much. Good evening or good morning or good afternoon, wherever.
Yeah. Zizo kwogerako tebadde mu maaso mu ggwanga. Naye ndowooza bannayuganda mukakasizza ani afuga eggwanga. Kuba gwookera ku makya n'oŋŋamba nti eggwanga gw'olifuga, n'oŋŋamba nti nno oli mu ntebe mu butuufu bwabwo, ng'okimanyi bulungi nnyo nti mulimu bananyini ntebe. Mulabye bulungi nnyo olunaku lwa leero. Nze nno ŋŋenda kwogera ku katambi akamu akalabikiddwako mu maka g'omukulembeze waffe ow'ekkumi Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. Era Mukama Katonda tulina omwebaza nnyo nti ate yatuwa omukulembeze omugezi ennyo, n'atuweerako ne First Lady omubuufu ate era omugezi. Baganda bange mulina ka vidiyo akamu ke mubuusizza amaaso. Naye ka vidiyo kano eno kalaze nti boyi omuntu atufuga si munnayuganda. Ka vidiyo kano kalaze nti abasirikale oba abajaasi abali mu ggwanga lyaffe Uganda si bannayuganda abasinga. Mukimanyi bulungi nnyo nti omukulembeze waffe bamuwambidde ku kisaawe ne bamutuuse ewaka. Naye n'abantu bennyini nnyini be batadde ewaka nti ng'abasirikale be bayiye ewaka, owedda Uganda bo naye nga tabategeera, nga n'olulimi lwayogera tebalutegeera. Paka First Lady waffe Babi Maama Itungo avuddeyo n'alabisa omu ku basirikale be badeployinze ewaka. Era akatambi ako mba mukalabye bulungi nnyo, amuyise muli erinnya lye ng'erinnya lya Kinyarwanda. Ate era n'ayogera naye mu lulimi Olunyarwanda. Omusajja oyo batuuse ne bawamba omukuumi wa His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu akuuma ku geeti. Naye omukulembeze waffe Uganda nabo nga tebabitegeera, nga ne byayogera tebabimanyi. Paka maama wazze n'amuyita erinnya lye mu Lunyarwanda. Omusajja oyo mumutunuulire nnyo, mumwetegereze. Era maama wazze n'amugamba, n'amuyita erinnya lye, n'amwogera mu Lunyarwanda. Omusajja kwe kumuddamu n'amugamba ali wano eno mu mmotoka. So kino kiraga ki? Kiraga nti abatufuga babboyi si Banyarwanda. Abatufuga babboyi mu nsonyi, abatufuga babboyi Banyarwanda. Abatufuga baki? Nti n'olulimi lwe twogera abamu tebakola ki? Tebalumanyi. Kakati gwali eyo akyagaanya okulwanirira omukulembeze waffe ow'ekkumi okumuteeka entebe mu ntebe. Nkusaasidde nnyo. Tukwate owaffe munnayuganda gwe tumanyi, naffe tumuteeke entebe mu ntebe, kubanga bano bali kulwanirira owaabwe Omunyarwanda waabwe. Ali ku bannayuganda abafuukidde akayinja mu ngatto. Kino kiraga bulazi nti nno we tuteerwaneko tukwate naffe omunnayuganda owaffe tumuteeke mu ntebe. Baganda bange bakyabafuga nnyo. Era mbabuusa mbalabula awakana kana akatambi ddayo okategereza okalabe. Omusajja ono mwabadde abadde ku geeti nga bamubuuza lwaki mukutte omwana waffe na his excellence ababuuza aliruda nga tebamanyi na waali nga tasobola na kumuddamu naye babi tungo mama first lady waze n'amusomyako erinnya ng'erinnya lya Kinyarwanda n'amugamba mu Lunyarwanda era amuzzemu bukolokolo kakaranga omwana bamusesemye. So baganda bange abakyali eyo abakyalowooza nti bino ebintu by'amannyo wenu abakyalowooza mbu nno simanyi Museveni oli abafuga boyi yabagamba temumulwanirirangako tabamanyi akolerera famire ye n'abantu be. Kyokka omugezigezi omu yagamba ate ng'omugezi oyo ya his excellence Kyagulanyi Ssentamu yagamba osobola okubeera awo nga mwenna muli basibe naye nga mu busibe bwammwe muli mu kkomera babasibye oli n'avaayo n'agamba nze njagala bukulembeze naye ng'ali mu kkomera kyokka ng'akimanyi n'obukulembeze bw'ayagala tebugenda kumuyamba kubanga naye abeera musibe. Mu kifo ky'okwerwanako bejje mu busibe wallahi ng'oli agamba nze njagala bukulembeze kyokka nga bali mu kkomera naye ng'akimanyi musibe naye ng'awooza ayagala bukulembeze. So baganda bange abantu abo mu nsi mwebali we batyo bangi nnyo abagala okutulemesa enkyukakyuka naye ate mbasaba temubawa budde kubanga nabo enkyukakyuka bakola ki nabo bajagala era singa bucha ku makya his excellence natula mu ntebe entebe be bagenda okusooka bagambe boy twabeerawo twakuyirawo omubiri twakulwanirira. So baganda bange tubeere bagumu tukimanyi bulungi nnyo eno gye tuli mu marathon olunaku lugenda kukya olaba abaali mu nsiko bamalayo emyaka 5 gyokka. Museveni yatandika okulwanirira obukulembeze bw'eggwanga Uganda ng'ayagala obuwamba mu 1960 okubeerera ddala serious mu 1970 kuba Amini we yajja Gutebeza yalwanyisa Amini n'amaana alwanyisa n'Obote 2. Amini yamala ku bukulembeze emyaka emeka emyaka 8 Museveni ng'amulwanyisa kubanga Amini we yajja ku bukulembeze Museveni yabeera mu Uganda ennaku ezi n'ayingira mu diaspora kulwanyisa Amini. Amini lwe baamuggyako bwe bati Gutebeza Amini yamulwanyisa emyaka 8 najja n'alwanyisa Obote ng'Obote babaze okujjako Amini najja n'alwanyisa Obote nagenda mu nsiko emyaka emirala emeka 5 kakati ogenda kuŋŋamba ki kitegeeza yo obukulembeze yabulwanira okubufuna emyaka 10 n'egyo 15 nga yagala bukulembeze bwa ggwanga Uganda nati Kyagulanyi eyakajja emyaka 2-3 Tebeza bali abasajja balinga mu mundu naye ono ate ow'ebigambo naffe abamanyi g'abantu ate gwe osobola okukakasiza nti Kyagulanyi yafuga ebikolwa byennyini biraga gw'obookera ku makya n'otugamba nti Museveni bannayuganda baakulonda ekikuwambisa omuntu okumujja ku nnyonyi n'omukirinapinga paka uwe waka kyaki ate ogamba bannayuganda baakulonda muleke atambule bannayuganda bamwanirize agende ku kitebe kye ayogereko ne bannamawulire ayogereko n'abalwanyize b'eddembe. So baganda bange abo bonna aboogera abawoza asimanyi yatugamba entebe mu ntebe ali luddawa baganda bange tubakakasa nti olunaku lugenda kukya Kyagulanyi ng'ali entebe mu ntebe era lazima ajja kutuukayo wekatali giryanza nabagamba ow'eriisa erimu alitemya kuwa amaaso aga kuwa amaaso abiri goloza Museveni singa Kyagulanyi si yafuga yalibadde amukwata waati ebyo ebyekiryenga dolooza atyaki kuba naye akimanyi nti alina nnamba alina amaanyi g'abantu kiki ekimumuwambisizza okumujja ku nnyonyi gwali okirabyewa musajja baali badde bamuleka n'agenda n'asayininga in kisegedde era tukimanya ajja kukomawo ku kisaawe kubanga bwe tebamukooneddeemu entry alina okudda tulina omukima ku kisaawe tebamukooneddeemu entry mukyalimu exit tukyalina omukima ku kisaawe Kyagulanyi era baaba wakika His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu oyina okukomawo ssebo okwoneseemu passport yo entro ino gikonesaamu era ekyo kye tugenda okudimandinga ffe nga bannayuganda so bannaaye twebeereremu nga ffe. One love. Welcome to Uganda. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Where are you taking him? 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 Member of Parliament. Member of Parliament. Where are you taking him? This is happening on an international airport. They are coming to the plane. They are coming to the plane. This is happening at the international airport. The President and Honorable Kirumira Hassan Kyagulanyi Ssentamu have been whisked away by SFC members. No, you cannot push me out. I come on this plane. You must wait. You must wait. You cannot push me out. They are arresting Honorable Hassan Kirumira and the President have been whisked away. This is an airplane. You cannot push me out. No way. You cannot push me out. What you're doing is wrong. I'm a member of Parliament. You cannot pick me out of the plane. You cannot. I'm a member of Parliament. You cannot pick me out of the plane. What you're doing is wrong. And you're violating international laws. You wicked people. You wicked people. Why whisk away the President? Kyagulanyi Ssentamu must be whisked away. Please. Ekibaddewo President bamututte emmoloka ebadde mulinze immediately bamukutte bubi nnyo wamu ne Honorable Hassan ne babatwala. Kyekibaddewo wano ku kisaawe nga twakatuuka bwe tuti. Ekibaddewo nga twakatuuka bwe tuti abasajja badde mu plain uniform. Thank you.
This is a message to the government.
I met Bobby at university. I didn't know he was a musician. He was different.
I didn't have so many dreams. She impacted my life. She made me realize we had to impact other lives. I've come to Parliament and taken an oath to protect the Constitution of Uganda. Somebody had to speak for us. People thought I had the loudest voice. Again, one more confident time.
This year's presidential election could see 71-year-old President Museveni serve a fifth term in office.
No leader has ever handed over power peacefully. This is a military regime dressed in a civil facade.
We have the Honorable Bobby Wine with us.
As a matter of fact, I would now agree that yes.
Why is my husband held in a military barracks? If I could see him, then I would know what I am actually dealing with.
Our Bobby should be released.
I would rather represent the resilience of Ugandans. We stand for equality and dignity for everybody. We are non-violent and we continue to preach non-violence.
I am not a criminal. I am a presidential candidate.
Nothing will stop him.
We must get our freedom or we shall die trying.
We are fighting for freedom. We are fighting for freedom.
This message to go to President Museveni. On behalf of the people of Uganda, I am challenging you to a free and fair election.
government.
I met Bobby at university.